A mother's funeral is one of the deepest sorrows a child will ever face. In that moment of grief, a woman longs for just one thing: her husband's presence, his hand on her shoulder, his silent strength reminding her that she is not alone. But in this story, the cruelest betrayal unfolds. When the heroine's mother passes away, her husband does not appear at the funeral. Instead, he rushes to the bedside of another woman, his so-called white moonlight. The unattainable first love he never let go of. That woman is not dying. She is not even truly ill. A faint fever, a faint weakness is enough to pull him away. And so the heroine kneels alone before her mother's coffin, surrounded by murmuring relatives who ask, "Where is her husband?" She receives no comfort, only silence and humiliation. At that moment, she realizes sometimes pain does not come from death itself, but from the living who abandon you. This is not just the funeral of her mother. It is the funeral of her marriage. The story begins quietly, in the shadows of a marriage that looks respectable on the outside, but is hollow within. The heroine has been married for years, carrying the title of wife, the responsibilities of a partner, and the endless expectations of a daughter-in-law. Outwardly, she is the woman beside him, the legal spouse, the one who should have been cherished. But in truth, she has never once been allowed to step into his heart. That place has long been occupied by another, his white moonlight, the one woman he never stopped worshiping, even if she existed only as an illusion from the past. To the world, he plays the role of a successful husband, a man with ambition and drive. To her, he is a cold figure at the dining table, a stranger who sleeps beside her, yet dreams of someone else. His gestures are polite, his words clipped, his affection absent. Every time she tries to reach out, she is met with indifference. And every time she whispers his name, it feels like speaking into an empty room. The heroine, however, is not naive. She knows her marriage is built on quicksand. She feels it in the way his eyes soften at the mention of another woman, in the way he makes excuses to leave home, in the way his silence weighs heavier than any argument. But she endures. She endures because she still believes in vows, in duty, in family. She tells herself that time might change him, that devotion might be enough, that if she gives her all, one day he will see her. Then her mother falls ill. It is the kind of illness that drains strength slowly, like a candle burning to its final drop of wax. The heroine spends sleepless nights at her mother's bedside, holding her frail hand, whispering words of comfort that tremble with unshed tears. In those moments, she turns to her husband, not for money, not for grandeur, but for presence. She asks him to come with her, to sit by her mother just once, to let her mother see that her daughter is not alone in this marriage. He does not refuse outright. Instead, he gives her the kind of answer that feels like an absence in disguise. I have work. I'll come when I can. The truth, however, is sharper. He is not working late. He is not trapped in meetings. He is with her, the woman who forever lingers in his heart, the one he calls his white moonlight. And so, while the heroine watches her mother fade away, he watches another woman pretend to be fragile, fragile enough to need his constant care. The heroine swallows her grief in silence. She tends to her mother with both hands while carrying the emptiness of her marriage on her back. She tries to forgive, to excuse, to hope. But every time she sees her husband's empty chair beside her, heart cracks a little more. Her relatives notice, neighbors whisper. And though she smiles politely, she knows the truth. She is alone. In the darkness of that beginning, the seeds of betrayal are already sown. The heroine does not yet know that her mother, as approaching death, will not only mark the end of a life, but also strip bare the illusion of her marriage. For when the moment comes, she will be forced to face the brutal truth. The man she calls her husband will not stand by her in the darkest hour. He will not choose her, not even then. The night her mother passes away, the heroine feels as though the ground has opened beneath her feet. The world is silent except for the low hum of mourning, and her heart is split between grief and desperation. She makes the call that no daughter should ever have to make. She dials her husband, her voice trembling, begging him to come. Not to fix anything, not to change the inevitable, but simply to stand beside her, to show the world that she has someone, that in the most devastating moment of her life, she is not abandoned. On the other end of the line, his voice is calm, almost detached. I'll try, he says. There are things I can't leave right now. I'll come when I can. She clutches the phone tighter, swallowing the scream rising in her throat. What could be more important than this? What could possibly weigh more than a wife's grief, than a mother-in-law's final farewell? But the truth is merciless. He is not tied down by urgent business. He is not caught in a storm of obligations. He is sitting in another home, holding another hand. The hand of the woman he has adored for years. The so-called white moonlight, who, at that very moment, is lying in bed, pretending to be too weak to stand. A mild fever, a staged faint, and he has chosen her over the woman who has shared his home and name for years. At the funeral, the heroine's absence of support becomes painfully visible. She kneels before the coffin, her knees pressed into the cold ground, her back bowed under the weight of sorrow. Her relatives glance around, whispering with raised eyebrows. Where is her husband? Why is she alone? The whispers cut like knives sharper than any blade. She hears them, but does not answer. Instead, she keeps her eyes fixed on the coffin, her lips pressed into a thin line. Inside, she is screaming. Every murmur, every glance, every silence burns humiliation deeper into her chest. She had hoped just once that he would put her first, that he would stand behind her in a way that words could never fully describe. But all she has is emptiness. The tragedy escalates further when her phone vibrates against her lap. With trembling hands, she unlocks it, praying for words of comfort, a message that says, "I'm on my way." But what she reads shatters the last remnants of her heart. His message is short, almost casual. "You'll have to handle things on your own. She needs me right now. She, always, her." The ghost of a love that never belonged in their marriage. The woman who has haunted every meal, every night, every promise. In that instant, the heroine understands with brutal clarity she has been nothing more than a placeholder, a shadow filling space until the light of his obsession demanded him again. The funeral stretches on, each ritual dragging like lead through her veins. She bows, she lights incense, she accepts condolences, all the while her chest is hollow, her face a mask. And though her relatives murmur sympathies, though neighbors sigh at her misfortune, the pity only makes her feel smaller. They do not see her strength. They see only a woman abandoned. This is the peak of humiliation, the cruelest cut of all. To bury her mother with no husband by her side is not just a personal tragedy. It is a public declaration of her worth in his eyes. Worthless, replaceable, invisible. And though she does not shed tears before the crowd, something inside her dies that day. Not just a daughter mourning her mother, but a wife mourning the marriage she thought she had. When the last incense stick has burned low and the final guest has left, silence falls over the heroine like a heavy shroud. She sits alone beside her mother's coffin, the flicker of candles painting shadows across her tired face. Grief swirls in her chest like a storm, but beneath it is another feeling, one colder, sharper, more permanent. It is clarity. She thinks back to the countless nights she spent waiting for her husband to come home, the countless lies she told herself. He is busy. He is tired. He will change. She remembers every time she excused his absences, every time she accepted his silence, every time she swallowed her pain just to keep the illusion of a marriage alive. But now, with her mother gone and her husband absent, the illusion has finally crumbled. The truth is merciless. Her marriage is a coffin too sealed long before this day, buried under the weight of another woman's name. Her husband did not fail her just once. He failed her every day he chose someone else over her. It is the unveiling of a truth she has denied for too long. She is utterly alone in this union. In that moment, she no longer feels tears. They have dried, leaving her face hollow, but her mind clear. She looks at her mother's portrait, eyes gentle, even in black and white, and whispers, "I will not let your daughter live like this anymore." The turning point is not loud. It does not come with shouting or rage. It comes with stillness, with a decision that something must end so something else can begin. After the funeral, she calls her husband. Her voice is steady, almost eerily calm. "We need to talk," she says. When he arrives, he carries the scent of another woman, a trace she recognizes instantly. He sits across from her, casual, even smug, as though he expects her to cry, to beg, to demand. Instead, she places the divorce papers on the table. He laughs, a cold, mocking sound. "You're upset. You'll calm down. You always come back." But this time, she does not flinch. She looks him straight in the eye and says, "I buried my mother without you by my side. That was the day I buried our marriage too." For the first time, he sees something in her he has never seen before. Not desperation, but resolve. The woman who once begged for his attention has disappeared. She gathers her belongings with quiet precision. No drama, no tears. She packs her clothes, her keepsakes, her mother's photo. Each item is a statement. She no longer belongs here. When she steps out of the house for the last time, she feels the weight lift from her shoulders. The grief of losing her mother still lingers, but it is different now. It is no longer chained to humiliation or abandonment. It is pure, untainted by betrayal. The turning point is complete. She has chosen herself, and though the road ahead will be uncertain, she knows one truth with absolute certainty. She will never again kneel before the ghost of another woman's love. Months pass. The seasons change, but the emptiness beside the heroine no longer aches at heels. She has left the house that once suffocated her, left the cold walls where her name was nothing but a shadow. Now she lives in a small apartment of her own. The space is modest, but it belongs to her. The furniture carries no memories of betrayal. The silence is not loneliness, but peace. Every corner whispers freedom. Meanwhile, the man she once called her husband spirals into ruin. At first, he does not notice her absence. He believes she will return, as she always did. He believes her strength is temporary, her defiance fleeting. But as days turn into weeks, he begins to realize she is not coming back. His white moonlight, the woman he abandoned, everything forefalls, truly ill this time. The faint fevers and staged fainting spells give way to a real disease that no amount of devotion can cure. He throws money into hospitals, sacrifices his work, burns through his energy. But the woman he idolized remains frail, and with her, his life crumbles. His business falters, his reputation collapses, and the people who once admired him turn away. He looks for comfort in the memory of his wife. He remembers the way she kept the house steady, the way she endured without complaint, the way she lit incense for his ancestors. He remembers the steadiness of her hand at his side during storms he had long forgotten. But when he reaches out, there is nothing. Her number no longer answers. The home they once shared is empty. The woman he dismissed has vanished into a life where he has no place. For the heroine, liberation comes quietly, like dawn after a long night. She rises early, makes coffee in her own kitchen, and feels pride in every sip. She visits her mother's grave alone, but not lonely. She brings flowers, fresh and bright, and tells her mother, "I'm living for myself now." The words no longer tremble. They are strong, steady, true. Her relatives, once pitying, now see her differently. They see a woman who endured the storm and walked away with dignity. Some whisper admiration, some whisper regret, but she does not care. For the first time, their voices hold no power over her. The greatest retribution is not revenge. While he drowns in the ruins of his own choices, she flourishes in the life he never imagined she could build without him. She does not curse him, nor does she wait for his downfall. She simply no longer looks back. In the final scene, she sits by her window, sunlight pouring over her face. On the table rests her mother's framed photograph beside a vase of lilies. She runs her fingers along the frame, her lips curving into a soft, peaceful smile. "I kept my promise, Mother," she whispers. "Your daughter will never kneel in shadows again." And with that, the chapter closes not with vengeance, but with victory. The victory of a woman who lost everything, only to discover that in losing him, she found herself. This story is not only about a funeral or a broken marriage. Love, real love, is proven not by words spoken in comfort, but by presence in pain. When the heroine lost her mother, her husband's absence spoke louder than any betrayal. He showed her, and everyone else, where his heart truly lay. But in that absence, she found something greater than him. She found herself. She discovered that freedom is not given, it's taken. That dignity is not offered, it is claimed. And that the moment she walked away from the shadow of a man who never cherished her, she stepped into the light of her own strength. Her journey is a reminder to every woman listening: you are not defined by someone else's choices. You are not measured by the love withheld from you. You are worthy of being seen, being valued, being loved first by yourself, and then by those who truly deserve you. If you have ever felt invisible, if you have ever been abandoned in your darkest moments, know this: you are not alone. And you do not have to stay in the shadows. Share this story with someone who needs the reminder. Sometimes it is a hand reaching through the dark, whispering, "You are strong enough to walk away. You are strong enough to live for yourself."